Let me tell you something that's been eating at me for months now. Something I can't shake no matter how hard I try to rationalize it away. You know those moments when reality feels just a little off, like the world skipping a beat? Well, mine skipped in the worst way possible. It started with my reflection in the mirror. It smiled at me before I did. Not a big, creepy grin or anything dramatic like that, just a subtle curl of the lips, a second ahead of my own thoughts. And once I noticed it, everything started unraveling, like I'd pulled a thread in the fabric of my life. I swear this isn't some made-up tale. It happened to me, Alex Thompson, right here in this sleepy little town of Milford, Ohio. I'm 32, a freelance graphic designer who spends most days hunched over my laptop in my old Victorian house on Elm Street. No wife, no kids, just me, my cat Whiskers, and a routine that's as predictable as the morning fog rolling off the river. But that routine? It's what made the glitch stand out so sharply. Stick with me here. I'll walk you through it step by step, because if I don't get this out, I think I'll lose my mind. It all kicked off about 6 months ago, back in May. The weather was turning warmer, the kind where you leave the windows open at night and wake up to birds chirping like they're auditioning for a Disney movie. I just wrapped up a big project for a client, a logo redesign for some startup in California, and I was feeling pretty good about myself. You know that post-work glow? Where you treat yourself to a hot shower and maybe crack open a beer afterward? That's where I was headed. My bathroom's nothing fancy, cracked tiles from the 70s, a pedestal sink, and this big oval mirror hanging above it that's been there since I bought the place 5 years ago. I inherited the house from my aunt after she passed, peacefully, in her sleep, no drama there. She was a sweet old lady, collected antique mirrors and knickknacks, but I never gave them much thought. Just dusted them off and called it home. So I'm standing there, towel around my waist, wiping steam off the mirror with my hand. My face comes into view, tired eyes, stubble I should have shaved yesterday, the usual. I remember thinking about the beer in the fridge, and a small smile crept onto my face. But here's the thing, before I felt that smile form, before my brain even registered the impulse, I saw it in the reflection. The lips in the glass twitched upward first, just a fraction of a second ahead. It was so quick, I blinked and shook my head, figuring it was the steam playing tricks, or maybe I was more exhausted than I thought. Get a grip, Alex, I muttered to myself, chuckling nervously. But deep down, a tiny knot formed in my stomach, like when you hear a creak in the house at night and tell yourself it's just settling beams. I brushed it off and went about my evening. Made dinner, nothing special, just pasta from a box, and binge-watched some true crime documentary on Netflix. Whiskers curled up on my lap, purring like an engine, and for a while, everything felt normal. But that night, as I lay in bed staring at the ceiling fan spinning lazily, my mind kept drifting back to the mirror. Was it a lag in my perception? Like how sometimes your phone's camera delays what you're seeing? Nah, that didn't make sense. Mirrors don't have lag, they're just reflections. I tossed and turned until dawn, and by morning, I'd convinced myself it was nothing. Life went on, emails, deadlines, the occasional coffee run to the diner downtown where old Mr. Hargrove always asks about my love life, like he's my grandpa. A couple of days passed without incident. I avoided the bathroom mirror as much as I could, using the one in the hallway for quick checks. But you can't dodge your own face forever. It was a Thursday evening, I think. Yeah, because I had a Zoom call with that California client scheduled for Friday, and I needed to look presentable. So, I hopped in the shower again, same routine. This time, as I stepped out and faced the mirror, I decided to test it. Call it curiosity or stupidity, but I stared straight at my reflection, stone-faced, no expression at all. "Come on," I whispered, feeling like an idiot talking to glass. Then, deliberately, I forced a frown. But before my muscles moved, the reflection's brows furrowed just a hair ahead. My heart skipped, actually skipped, like in those cheesy movies. I backed up, nearly slipping on the wet floor, and stared harder. "What the hell?" I said out loud, my voice echoing off the tiles. "Now I know what you're thinking, optical illusion, right? Or maybe I was coming down with something, a fever messing with my head. But I felt fine, temperature normal, no headache. I grabbed my phone and snapped a selfie in the mirror, but the photo looked normal. No early smile, no glitch. It only happened in real time, like the mirror was anticipating me. That word stuck in my brain, anticipating. As if it knew what I was about to do before I did it. I spent the rest of the night researching online, forums about glitches in the Matrix, Reddit threads on Mandela effects, even some pseudoscience sites about parallel dimensions. Most of it was junk, people sharing stories about déjà vu or seeing doppelgangers. But a few hit close. One guy claimed his shadow moved independently for a split second, another said her reflection blinked out of sync. I bookmarked them, but they didn't help. If anything, they made me more uneasy. The next morning, I called my best friend, Mike. We've known each other since high school. He's a mechanic down at the auto shop, grounded as they come. I didn't tell him everything at first, just said I'd had a weird experience with the mirror. Dude, you need to get up more, he laughed. Staring at yourself too long? That's what happens when you live like a hermit. I forced a laugh too, but it felt hollow. We made plans to grab beers that weekend, and I hung up feeling a bit better. Maybe he was right. Isolation can play tricks on the mind. Milford's not exactly bustling. Population maybe 5,000, with the river on one side and cornfields on the other. My house is at the edge of town, surrounded by woods that get pitch black at night. Peaceful, usually. But that peace started feeling oppressive. It escalated that Friday during the Zoom call. I was in my home office, which has a small vanity mirror on the desk, another antique from my aunt. The call was going fine. The client loved the designs. But midway through, as I was explaining a color choice, I glanced at the mirror out of habit. My reflection was nodding along, but a beat ahead of my words. I froze mid-sentence, staring as the mirrored me tilted its head slightly before I decided to. The client asked if I was okay, and I mumbled something about a bad connection, ending the call early. My hands were shaking as I slammed the laptop shut. This wasn't just a bathroom mirror anymore. It was spreading. Or was it? I ripped the vanity mirror off the desk and shoved it in a drawer, but that didn't stop the questions swirling in my head. What if it wasn't the mirrors? What if it was me? Over the weekend, I tried to distract myself. Met up with Mike at the local bar, the rusty nail, dim lights, pool tables, the smell of stale beer and peanuts. We shot some games, talked about nothing important, sports, his latest date gone wrong, my endless client revisions. I didn't bring up the mirror again. Didn't want him thinking I was cracking up. But as we wrapped up, he clapped me on the back and said, "You look like you haven't slept, man. Everything good?" I nodded, lied about a deadline, and drove home under a starry sky that felt too vast, too empty. Back in the house, Whiskers greeted me at the door, meowing insistently. I fed her, then hesitated before the hallway mirror. Just once more, I thought. I stood there, expression neutral, and slowly raised my hand to wave. The reflection's hand lifted first, barely noticeable, but there. A chill ran down my spine, the kind that makes your skin prickle like someone's watching you. That night, sleep evaded me again. I lay there, listening to the house creak, old wood expanding in the humidity. Around 2 a.m., a thought hit me: what if I covered all the mirrors? It sounded ridiculous, but desperation makes you try anything. I grabbed some old sheets from the linen closet and draped them over every reflective surface. The bathroom one, the hallway, even the polished silverware drawer got taped shut. The house felt dimmer, muffled somehow. Whiskers watched me curiously, her green eyes reflecting the lamplight. Wait, reflecting. I stared at her, but she just blinked and wandered off. Exhausted, I collapsed into bed, hoping for respite. But dreams came instead, vivid and unsettling. I was in an endless hall of mirrors, each one showing a version of me slightly out of sync, laughing when I was crying, running when I stood still. In one, the reflection stepped out, its hand reaching through the glass, cold fingers brushing mine. I woke up sweating, heart pounding, the sheet tangled around my legs. It was dawn, gray light filtering through the curtains. I stumbled to the kitchen for coffee, avoiding my reflection in the window by keeping my eyes down. As the pot brewed, I sat at the table, scrolling through my phone for more stories. Found a forum post from someone in the UK. My reflection anticipated my emotions. Started small, now it's like it's living its own life. The comments were mixed, some sympathetic, others calling it schizophrenia. I booked an appointment with my doctor for Monday, just in case. Better safe than sorry, right? Monday rolled around, and I drove to Dr. Ellis's office in the next town over. She's been my GP since I moved here, kind woman in her 50s, no nonsense. I told her about the fatigue, the insomnia, but skirted the mirror stuff. She checked my vitals, suggested blood work for thyroid issues or vitamin deficiencies. Stress can do funny things to perception, she said, prescribing some mild sleep aids. I nodded, thanked her, and left feeling like a fraud. On the way home, I stopped at the hardware store for more supplies, maybe some matte paint to cover reflective surfaces permanently. The clerk, a kid barely out of high school, chatted about the weather while ringing me up. Heard there's a storm coming, he said. I glanced outside. Clouds were gathering, heavy and dark. Back home, I started painting over the hallway mirror, thick coats of flat white that dulled the shine. It felt therapeutic at first, like I was erasing the problem. But as I worked, a gust of wind rattled the windows, and thunder rumbled in the distance. Whiskers hid under the couch, her tail flicking nervously. I finished the job and stepped back, admiring my handiwork. No more reflection there. Satisfied, I headed to the bathroom to wash up. Wait, I'd covered that mirror with a sheet. But curiosity, that damn cat killer, made me peek under it. Just for a second. My face stared back, neutral. I smirked deliberately. And there it was, the reflection's mouth curved up first, eyes crinkling with amusement that wasn't mine yet. I dropped the sheet, backing away as lightning flashed outside, illuminating the room in stark white. That's when the power went out. The house plunged into darkness, rain pounding the roof like fists. I fumbled for my phone's flashlight, heart racing. In the beam's glow, I saw Whiskers arch her back, hissing at something in the corner. I swung the light, nothing there. But the air felt thicker, charged, like before a big reveal in a horror flick. I told myself it was the storm, just the storm. Grabbed a candle from the kitchen, lit it, and sat in the living room, waiting for the lights to come back. The flame flickered, casting shadows that danced unnaturally, almost like figures moving just out of sight. My mind raced. Was this connected? Or was I paranoid now? Hours passed, the storm eased, but power stayed off. I dozed on the couch, candle burning low. When I woke, it was midnight, the house silent except for the drip of rain. Whiskers was gone from her spot, probably upstairs. I called her name softly, shining the phone light around. As I passed the painted-over mirror, something caught my eye, a faint outline in the wet paint, like a face pressing from behind. No, couldn't be. I touched it, still tacky, no indent. But the knot in my stomach tightened. Upstairs, in my bedroom, the full-length mirror on the closet door was still uncovered. I'd forgotten it. Moonlight filtered through the window, hitting the glass just right. I approached slowly. Phone light off now. My silhouette loomed, details sharpening as I got closer. I stopped a foot away, staring. The reflection stared back, then blinked. I hadn't blinked. Panic surged. I turned to run, but my foot caught on the rug. As I fell, I swear I heard a soft chuckle from the mirror, echoing in the empty room. Hitting the floor knocked the wind out of me, and I lay there, gasping, listening to my own ragged breaths. Whiskers appeared at the door, meowing plaintively. I crawled to her, scooped her up, and barricaded myself in the guest room. No mirrors there. Sleep came in fits, haunted by that blink. The next day, power restored, I threw myself into work, blasting music to drown out thoughts. But the glitch wasn't done. During lunch, as I ate a sandwich at the kitchen table, I caught my reflection in the toaster, small, distorted, but there, It chewed before I swallowed. Tiny, but unmistakable. I smashed the toaster with a hammer, shards flying. Enough, I growled. This was invading everything. I needed answers. That afternoon, I drove to the library in town, an old building with dusty books and a helpful librarian named Mrs. Patel. I asked for books on optics, psychology, even local history. Anything on unusual mirror phenomena? I said, trying to sound casual. She raised an eyebrow but pointed me to the occult section, mostly folklore. One book caught my eye. Haunted Heirlooms of Ohio. A self-published thing from the 90s. Flipping through, a chapter on antique mirrors from the Victorian era mentioned echoes, reflections that held memories or anticipated actions. Superstition, sure, but it mentioned my aunt's name in a footnote. She collected them, it said, from estate sales with questionable provenance. My blood ran cold. Was this mirror cursed or something? I checked out the book, heart pounding. Back home, I read by lamplight, whiskers on my lap. The storm had cleared, but the air felt heavy. According to the book, some mirrors were said to be windows to the veil, where the living and whatever else overlapped. Nonsense, right? But as I turned a page, a floorboard creaked upstairs. I froze. Whisker's ears perked. Slowly, I climbed the stairs, book in hand. The bedroom door was ajar. I'd left it closed. Inside, the closet mirror gleamed. My reflection stood there, but I was still in the doorway. No, that couldn't be. I stepped forward. It matched now. But for a split second, it hadn't. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat up, watching the mirror, waiting for the next glitch. And it came, at 3 a.m., the witching hour they call it. The reflection yawned before I felt tired. Then, it waved goodbye, hand lifting smoothly while mine stayed at my side. Terror gripped me. I shattered the mirror with a lamp, glass raining down. 7 years bad luck? I'd take it over this. But breaking it didn't help. Shards on the floor showed fragments of my face, each smiling independently. I swept them up, dumped them outside in the trash, hands cut but not bleeding much. Dawn broke, and I called Mike again, voice trembling. I need help, man. Something's wrong. He came over that evening, listened to my story without interrupting. Let's check the house, he said, practical as ever. We searched attic to basement. No gas leaks, no mold. But in the attic, among my aunt's boxes, we found a journal. Her handwriting. The mirror shows what will be, not what is. It's a gift or a curse. Mike skimmed it, frowned. This is weird, Alex. Maybe she was losing it in her old age. But I knew better. As we left the attic, a draft blew through, and I felt eyes on my back. Downstairs, in the bathroom, sheets still over the mirror, I heard a whisper. Faint like wind. Soon. Mike didn't hear it. He left, promising to research therapists. Alone again, the house felt alive, watchful. Every shiny surface, a spoon, the TV screen, hinted at the glitch. I unplugged everything, sat in darkness. What if it wasn't the mirrors? What if it was reality glitching around me? The thought chilled me deeper than any ghost story. And that's just the beginning. It got worse, much worse. But I'll stop here for now. Reliving it tires me out. If you want to hear part 2, just say the word. Trust me, the intrigue builds from here. I didn't sleep that night. Not even a wink. Mike left around 9, and the second his truck rumbled out of the driveway, the house exhaled, like it had been holding its breath while company was over. I sat on the couch in the dark, knees pulled to my chest, whiskers pressed against my side like a living hot water bottle. Every few minutes I'd shine the phone flashlight around the room, half expecting to see my own silhouette standing in the corner, smiling before I did. Nothing moved. Just the usual creaks and the low hum of the refrigerator. But the silence felt anticipatory. Like the calm before a jump scare in a theater. Around 2:17 a.m., I remember the exact minute because the clock on the microwave blinked it in red. I heard footsteps upstairs. Slow, deliberate. Thud, pause, thud. Not the random pops of old beams. These had weight, the cadence of someone pacing the length of my bedroom. Whisker's ears flattened. She hissed, a low, guttural sound I'd never heard from her before. I froze, phone clutched so tight my knuckles went white. The footsteps stopped directly above me, right over the spot where the closet mirror used to hang. Then a soft scrape, like fingernails dragging across drywall. My stomach flipped. I wanted to call Mike, the cops, 911, anyone, but my voice lodged in my throat like a bone. I forced myself to move. 1 step. 2. The stairs groaned under my socks. Halfway up, the temperature dropped 10 degrees. Breath fogged in front of my face. At the landing, the hallway stretched longer than it should, shadows pooling thick at the far end. My bedroom door was open. I'd closed it. I know I had. The phone light trembled as I pushed inside. The closet was empty, no mirror, no shards, just a faint outline of where the frame had been nailed to the wall. But the air shimmered, the way heat rises off asphalt in July. And in that shimmer, a shape, me. Not a reflection, there was no surface left to reflect in, but a perfect, three-dimensional copy standing exactly where the mirror used to be. It wore the same gray t-shirt and sweatpants I had on. Same stubble. Same tired eyes. It raised a hand in a lazy wave. I didn't wave back. Couldn't. My arm felt lead-heavy. The copy tilted its head, curious, then smiled, slow, knowing, the kind of smile you give when you're one step ahead in a game the other person doesn't even know they're playing. My pulse hammered so loud I barely heard my own whisper. "What are you?" It didn't answer. Instead, it took 1 step forward. The floor didn't creak under its weight. It simply glided. Another step. The shimmer rippled, and for a heartbeat the bedroom wallpaper peeled back like old film, revealing raw plaster and something darker behind it, veins of shadow pulsing like roots. I stumbled backward into the hallway, slammed the door, and wedged a chair under the knob. Childish, yeah, but panic doesn't care about logic. Downstairs, I barricaded myself in the kitchen, pushed the table against the door, dragged the fridge in front of that. Whiskers followed, tail bottle brushed. I sat on the linoleum with my back to the cabinets, phone dead, battery drained in under an hour, which never happens. The house went quiet again. Too quiet. Then the lights flickered, once, twice, and every bulb in the place surged bright as daylight before popping in a shower of sparks. Darkness swallowed everything. That's when I heard the whispering. Not from upstairs. From inside the walls. Soft, overlapping, like a crowd murmuring just beneath the plaster. My name, over and over, Alex. 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 The cadence matched my heartbeat. I pressed my palms to my ears, but the sound burrowed deeper, vibrating in my teeth. Whiskers bolted, disappearing under the stove. I curled into a ball, rocking, telling myself it was carbon monoxide poisoning, sleep deprivation, anything but real. Dawn crept through the blinds and bruised purples. The whispers stopped as suddenly as they'd started. I unbarricaded the door with shaking hands, stepped into the living room, and stopped cold. Every sheet I'd draped over the mirrors lay neatly folded on the coffee table. The painted-over hallway mirror gleamed, paint gone, surface pristine. My reflection stared back, hands in pockets, casual as hell. It lifted a brow. I hadn't moved yet. I grabbed my keys and ran. Barefoot, still in the same clothes, Whiskers abandoned, "Sorry, girl." The screen door banged behind me. My truck started on the third try, engine coughing like it resented being woken. I peeled out, gravel spitting, and didn't look back until Elm Street was a speck in the rearview. I drove straight to Mike's shop. He was under a minivan, grease up to his elbows. I must have looked like death because he dropped his wrench and hauled me inside without a word. Coffee, strong and burnt, steamed between my palms while I spilled everything. Footsteps, shimmer me, whispers. His face went through stages, skepticism, worry, then something harder. "Alex, you're coming home with me tonight," he said. "We'll get you to a doctor tomorrow. Real one." Sleep study MRI, whatever? I nodded, too exhausted to argue. His place was a cramped apartment above the garage, smelled like motor oil and pizza. He gave me the couch, a spare blanket, and a beer I didn't drink. For the first time in days, I passed out fully clothed, shoes still on. I woke to sunlight and the smell of bacon. Mike was at the stove, flipping strips. "You snore like a chainsaw, dude." He grinned, but his eyes kept flicking to me, checking. I sat up, rubbed my face, and froze. Across the room, on the back of his bathroom door, hung a small mirror. Cheap plastic frame, the kind you buy at a dollar store. My reflection sat on the couch, but it was already rubbing its face before my hands moved. The motion lag was bigger now, 2 full seconds. "Mike!" I croaked. He turned, followed my gaze. The reflection dropped its hands, smiled, and waved. Mike saw it. His spatula clattered to the floor. Jesus Christ! We stared, paralyzed. Then the reflection stood, while I was still seated, and walked to the kitchen. It stopped behind Mike, placed a hand on his shoulder. Mike didn't flinch, he couldn't see it. But I could. Clear as day. The reflection leaned in, whispered something in Mike's ear. Mike's eyes widened. He spun around, swatting at empty air. "What the hell, Alex? You just..." He stopped, confused. I thought I felt. The reflection was gone. Back in the mirror, sitting exactly where I was. But now it held a finger to its lips. "Shh." Mike grabbed his keys. "We're leaving. Now." We piled into his truck, no plan except away. He drove while I stared out the window, cornfields blurring past. My phone buzzed, dead battery all night, yet somehow 100% charged. A single text from my own number: "You can't outrun the echo." Mike saw it, swore, and floored it. We hit the highway doing 90. That's when the radio glitched. Static, then my voice, clear, calm. "Turn around, Mike." "He's lying." Mike slammed the power button. Silence. Then the GPS lady chimed in, robotic. "Recalculating. Destination, 217 Elm Street." He yanked the cord out. The screen kept glowing. Same address. Same calm voice. We pulled over at a gas station outside Dayton. Mike paced, lighting a cigarette with shaking fingers. "This is insane. We call the cops, we sound insane. We call a priest, same thing." He looked at me. "What does it want?" I didn't know. But the gas station had a payphone, remember those? And for some reason I felt compelled to use it. I dialed my own number. It rang twice. "Hello, Alex?" My voice, but smoother. Amused. I gripped the receiver. "Leave me alone." A soft laugh. "I'm not the one holding on. You are." Click. Mike watched me hang up, face pale. "We need help that isn't normal." He knew a guy. Everyone in a small town knows a guy. Father McAllister, retired priest who still did house blessings for a bottle of Jameson and gas money. Lived in a trailer 20 miles out. We showed up unannounced. The old man took one look at us, sighed, and invited us in. Smelled like incense and cat litter. He listened without interrupting, sipping tea that steamed like dry ice. When I finished, he set the cup down. "It's not a demon. Not a ghost either. You've got an echo that's learned to speak." He rummaged in a drawer. Pulled out a Polaroid, yellowed, dated 1987. A younger version of my aunt standing beside the exact oval mirror from my bathroom. Behind them, in the reflection, a second aunt, smiling while the real one frowned. "She thought it was a gift," Father McAllister said. "A way to see the future in micro moments. But every mirror she owned drank a little more of her timeline. By the end, she was reacting to what the echo did, not the other way around. Died in her sleep, heart attack. Or maybe the echo just took the wheel." He gave us a small leather pouch, salt, iron filings, a shard of blessed glass. "Break the loop. One mirror left unbroken, right? That's the anchor. Smash it at the exact moment the echo tries to cross. But you only get one shot. Miss, and it finishes the swap. Mike drove us back as the sun bled out across the fields. My house loomed dark against the sky, windows like empty eyes. We parked a block away, crept through the backyard. The back door was unlocked. I'd locked it when I fled. Inside, every light was on. Music played softly from the living room, my playlist, the one I hadn't touched in days. Whiskers sat on the couch, tail flicking, staring at the hallway. The painted mirror was gone. In its place, the oval one, back on the wall, pristine. No paint. No cracks. My reflection stood in front of it, arms spread like it was waiting for a hug. Mike clutched the pouch. On 3? I nodded. We stepped inside. The reflection turned, smiled, my smile, but wider. It spoke with my voice, but the words came a half-second before my brain formed them. You're late. Mike lunged, swinging the pouch like a mace. The reflection dodged. Impossible, physics-defying, and the pouch hit the wall, spilling salt in a useless arc. The mirror rippled. The reflection stepped forward, foot crossing the threshold where glass met air. I saw my own hand reach out, not mine, its fingers elongating, shadow stretching across the floor like spilled ink. I grabbed the fireplace poker, swung with everything I had. The mirror exploded in a cascade of silver rain. For a heartbeat, the reflection hung midair, mouth open in a silent scream. Then it shattered with the glass, fragments dissolving into smoke that smelled like ozone and wet earth. The house went black. Every bulb, every appliance, dead. Mike and I stood in the dark, breathing hard. Whiskers meowed once, normal sounding. I flicked my lighter. The wall was bare. No mirror. No shards. Just faint scorch marks in the shape of a doorway. We didn't stay to investigate. Grabbed Whiskers, a duffel of clothes, and left the keys on the counter. Mike's couch became home for the next week. I didn't look in any reflective surface without flipping it face down first. No more glitches. No whispers. Just a low hum of normal life. But last night, 3 months later, I woke up at 3:07 a.m. with the urge to smile. I fought it. Clenched my jaw until it ached. In the bathroom, Mike's bathroom, tiny mirror over the sink, I finally gave in. The grin felt foreign, stretched too wide. And for a split second, just before my lips moved, I swear the reflection's eyes flicked to the doorway behind me. Something stood there. Tall. Silent. Waiting. I haven't told Mike yet. I'm writing this on my phone, lights off, blanket over the mirror. If you're reading this, it means I worked up the nerve to send it. Or it means the echo finally learned to type. Either way, part 3 is coming whether I wanted to or not. Say the word. I didn't send the message. I typed it, thumb hovering over the arrow, but the screen glitched, letters rearranged themselves into don't, then the phone died. Battery icon red then black. I sat in Mike's bathroom with the lights off, blanket still draped over the mirror, heart jackhammering so hard I tasted metal. The apartment was quiet except for the fridge's low drone and Whiskers' soft snores from the living room. I counted to 100 then crept out. Mike was asleep on the couch, one arm dangling, TV flickering some late-night infomercial. I stepped over him, grabbed his truck keys from the hook, and slipped outside. 3:22 a.m. The air felt thick, like breathing through wet cotton. His pickup started on the first try, too easy. I drove with the windows down, cold slicing through my hoodie, trying to stay awake, stay me dash. Elm Street pulled at me like a magnet. I told myself I was just checking the house, making sure the mirror was really gone. But the wheel turned itself at the intersection. I didn't fight it. The Victorian loomed darker than before, porch light burned out, windows blind. My keys were still on the kitchen counter where I'd left them. I let myself in. The air inside was wrong, stale, metallic, like a basement that's been sealed for decades. Every footstep echoed twice. Whiskers wasn't with me. I'd left her at Mike's. Smart cat. I didn't turn on the lights. Moonlight through the curtains was enough. The scorch marks on the hallway wall had spread, forming a perfect arch 8 feet tall. The plaster inside it looked wet, glistening. I reached out. My fingers came away black, sticky, smelling of iron. The arch pulsed once, like a throat swallowing. Upstairs, my bedroom door hung open. The closet wall, where the mirror had been, was smooth now, but the wallpaper inside the closet had peeled away in strips, revealing raw lath and something else, a seam. A vertical line, waist-high, edges glowing faint silver. I pressed my palm to it. Warm. It pushed back. A voice behind me, my voice, but layered, like two people speaking a half-beat apart. You came back. I spun. Nothing. Just the empty room. But in the seam, a shape formed, my silhouette, pressed against the inside like someone trapped behind frosted glass. It raised a hand. I raised mine without meaning to. Our palms met through the wall, mine flesh, it's cold and smooth. A jolt shot up my arm, pins and needles on steroids. The seam widened with a wet ripping sound. I yanked free and bolted downstairs. The front door wouldn't open. Knob turned, deadbolt slid, but the door stayed shut, sealed by invisible force. Windows too, glass flexed but didn't break. I was trapped in my own house with whatever had worn my face. Phone still dead. I grabbed the landline. Yes, I'm that guy who kept one for emergencies. Dial tone. I punched 911. The operator picked up. 911, what's your emergency? Before I could speak, the line crackled. My voice, calm, amused, answered for me. False alarm. Just testing the line. Click. Dead. I dropped the receiver. It hit the floor and shattered into pieces that rearranged themselves into a tiny mirror, no bigger than a coaster. My reflection blinked up at me, winked, then the pieces melted into the hardwood like ice on a hot pan. The arch in the hallway pulsed again. Louder. The walls breathed, literally in and out, pain blistering with each exhale. I backed into the living room, grabbed the poker from the fireplace, still there, crusted with old ash. The TV flicked on by itself. Static, then a live feed, Mike's apartment. He was pacing, phone to his ear, whiskers on the counter watching him. The camera angle was wrong, too high, like it was mounted in the ceiling. Mike was calling me Dash. My dead phone buzzed in my pocket, screen cracked but glowing. Unknown number. I answered. Alex, where the hell are you? Mike's voice, frantic. The TV showed him freezing, looking around his empty apartment. Who said that? I realized he was hearing me through his phone, but I hadn't spoken. The version on the TV smiled, my smile, and said into the receiver, Everything's fine. Go back to sleep. Mike's eyes glazed. He lowered the phone, walked to the couch, lay down, and closed his eyes. The TV went black. The arch ripped wider. A foot stepped through, my foot, barefoot, pale. Then the leg. The echo was birthing itself into the house, one piece at a time. I swung the poker. It passed through the leg like smoke, but the smoke solidified where the iron touched, leaving a scorch mark shaped like my handprint. The echo hissed, first sound it had made that wasn't my voice, and withdrew. I had a weapon. I ran to the kitchen, yanked open drawers. Salt, left from Mike's exorcism kit, lighter fluid, matches. I poured a thick line across the hallway threshold. The echo's torso was emerging now, arms reaching, fingers elongating into claws of shadow. I lit the salt. Blue flame whooshed up waist high. The echo recoiled, skin blistering where the fire licked it. It screamed, my scream, but wrong, layered with 1,000 others. The fire died as fast as it rose. Salt turned to ash. The echo stepped over it, fully formed now, standing in my hallway wearing my face, my clothes, my exhaustion. But its eyes were wrong, too bright, pupils dilated to pinpricks. It tilted its head. Trade places, Alex. You've seen what I can do. I'll live your life better. I backed into the living room. You're not me. Not yet. It advanced. Every step left a footprint of black frost on the wood. But I've been practicing. Every smile you didn't mean. Every word you swallowed. I've been saving them. I remembered Father McAllister's words, -1 mirror left unbroken. But I'd shattered them all. Then it hit me, the tiny coaster mirror from the phone pieces. It had melted, but maybe not gone. I scanned the floor. There, under the couch, a single shard no bigger than a fingernail, catching moonlight. I dove for it. The echo lunged. Its hand closed around my ankle, ice cold, burning. My skin blistered instantly. I kicked free, grabbed the shard. It sliced my palm, blood welled, dripped onto the glass. The reflection in the shard drank it, color blooming across the silver. The echo froze. No! I smashed the shard against the floor. It didn't break. Instead, the blood spread, forming a perfect circle. The echo clawed at its throat, choking on nothing. The arch in the wall began to collapse inward, plaster crumbling like dry cake. The echo stumbled toward it, but the circle widened, pulling. I felt it too, a tug behind my navel, like the house was inhaling. I grabbed the poker, jammed it into the circle's edge. The metal glowed white-hot. The echo screamed as the circle became a vortex, wind howling, furniture sliding across the floor. I held on with everything I had. The echo's fingers raked the air inches from my face, eyes wide with terror that mirrored my own. Then it was gone. Sucked backward through the arch, which sealed with a sound like a judge's gavel. The wind stopped. The house went still. I collapsed, poker clattering. Blood pooled under my hand, but the shard was gone. The scorch marks faded. Dawn leaked through the curtains, pink and ordinary. I drove back to Mike's. He was making coffee, bleary-eyed. "You look like hell," he said. "Where'd you go?" I opened my mouth to tell him, and realized I couldn't remember the night. Not clearly. Just flashes, fire, blood, a scream that might have been mine. My palm was bandaged, Mike's work, apparently. He said I'd shown up at 4 a.m., bleeding, muttering about mirrors. He'd cleaned me up, put me to bed. I had no memory of it. We went back to the house together that afternoon. Everything was normal. No arch. No frost. The closet wall was just a wall. I sold the place a month later, took the loss, moved to an apartment with no reflective surfaces bigger than a phone screen. I checked them daily. No lag. No anti-smiles. But sometimes, when I'm alone, I catch myself humming a tune I don't know. Or I'll reach for a glass and my hand will hesitate, like it's waiting for permission. Last week, I found a Polaroid in my wallet, me standing in front of the oval mirror, smiling. On the back, in my handwriting, "See you soon." I burned it. The ashes spelled a single word before the wind took them, echo. I don't sleep much anymore. And I never look over my shoulder in the dark. There's one more part. The worst part. I've been avoiding it, but it's coming whether I write it or not. Say the word, and I'll tell you what happened the night the echo learned my name. I kept the Polaroid ashes in a Ziploc bag, taped inside a coffee can, buried under the sink behind the pipes. Out of sight, out of mind, right? Wrong. The new apartment was a third-floor walk-up in Dayton, beige walls, popcorn ceilings, one window that stuck. No mirrors bigger than the medicine cabinet square I'd covered with electrical tape. I told the landlord I was superstitious. He shrugged and took the deposit. Mike helped me move in 2 milk crates of clothes, a laptop, and Whiskers in her carrier. He kept glancing at the taped mirror like it might bite. "You sure you're good, man?" he asked for the 10th time. I lied. "Never better." He left. The door clicked shut. The silence that followed wasn't empty, it was occupied. Like someone had been waiting for the audience to leave the theater. That first night I slept with the lights on. Whiskers curled on my chest, purring hard enough to rattle my ribs. Around 2 a.m. the purring stopped. Her claws dug in. I opened my eyes. She was staring at the taped mirror, pupils blown wide. A low growl vibrated in her throat. I sat up. "What is it, girl?" The tape on the mirror had peeled back in one perfect curl, exposing a sliver of glass. In that sliver, my eye. But the pupil was a pinprick, and it blinked sideways. I lunged, slapped the tape down, and yanked the whole cabinet off the wall. The mirror behind it shattered in the sink, 7 years, sure, added to the tab. I swept the shards into a dustpan, dumped them in the coffee can with the ashes, and sealed it with duct tape. Whiskers watched from the doorway, tail lashing. I didn't sleep again. Days blurred. I worked freelance from coffee shops, using their smudged windows as monitors so I never had to face my own screen's black reflection. I showered at the gym. I shaved with the electric trimmer, eyes closed. I told myself the lag was gone. No anticipatory smiles. No whispers. Just paranoia. Then the photos started. First, my driver's license. I needed it for a client meeting. Pulled my wallet, and the picture had changed. Same DMV background, same forced half smile, but the eyes were looking at me from inside the plastic sleeve, not at the camera. I blinked. The photo blinked a half-second later. I tore it up. The pieces reassembled in my pocket by the time I reached the parking lot. Second, my phone's lock screen. I'd set it to a generic mountain landscape. Woke up one morning and it was me, sitting on the apartment couch, staring out at myself holding the phone. The on-screen me waved. Slowly. I factory reset the phone. The image came back as the default wallpaper. Third, the security camera at the coffee shop. I was waiting for a latte when the barista turned the tablet around. "Hey, isn't this you?" Grainy black and white feed from the ceiling cam. There I was at the counter, except the timestamp read 3:14 a.m. The shop had been closed for hours. In the footage, I looked up, smiled, and mouthed something the audio didn't catch. The barista frowned. "Weird. Must be a glitch." I left without the coffee. Mike noticed. I was losing weight, eyes sunken, hands trembling. He dragged me to a diner, no reflective surfaces except the ketchup bottle, which I turned label out. "You're spiraling," he said. "Let's get you to a shrink. Or a church. Or both." I almost told him about the photos. Instead I said, "There's one more thing I have to do." He knew what I meant. The coffee can. We drove back to the old house at dusk. The for sale sign swung crooked in the yard. No buyers in 3 months. The realtor had stopped answering my calls. We let ourselves in with the hide a key I'd never returned. The air inside was colder than outside, breath fogging. The scorch arch was back, wider, edges feathered like torn paper. In the living room sat the oval mirror. Not reassembled, impossible, but whole. Standing on its own clawfoot base, centered on the rug like it had never left. The glass was black, not silver. No reflection. Just depth, endless and oil slick. Mike whispered, "We torch it." I nodded. We brought gasoline, road flares, a crowbar. But the moment we stepped over the threshold, the front door slammed. Locks clicked. Windows frosted over. The mirror brightened, and the surface rippled like disturbed water. A voice, mine, but older, tired, resigned, spoke from inside the glass. "You can't kill an echo with fire, Alex. You can only trade." Mike raised the crowbar. His reflection in the black glass raised it a half-second early. He hesitated. The reflection smiled. "Go ahead. See who swings first." I grabbed his arm. "Don't. It wants to fight." The mirror showed us a memory. My aunt in 1987, same room, same mirror. She was arguing with her reflection. The reflection was winning. In the footage, she aged 10 years in 10 seconds, hair graying, skin sagging. Then she stepped into the glass. The reflection stepped out, younger, radiant. The real aunt crumbled to dust on the rug. The echo dusted off its hands and walked away. The vision ended. The mirror went black again. Mike's voice cracked. "What the hell was that?" "The contract," I said. I understood now. Every owner trades places eventually. The mirror keeps the better copy. The original fades. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A video call from my own number. I answered. My face filled the screen, but the background was the apartment I'd left that morning. Whiskers sat on the couch beside the on-screen me, purring. "Hi, Alex," the echo said through the speaker. "I've been cat-sitting. She likes me better." Mike lunged for the phone. I held him back. The echo continued. "Bring the priest's pouch. The salt circle. The shard. All of it. Midnight. Or I start with your friend." The call ended. A text followed, a photo of Mike's truck keys on my new apartment's coffee table. We had 4 hours. Father McAllister met us at a rest stop chapel off I-75. He looked older, frail, but his eyes were sharp. He listened, nodded, handed me a new pouch, black velvet this time. Inside, a single nail, rusted, bent into a spiral. "The nail of intent," he said. "Forged from the iron in a hangman's coffin. Drive it through the echo's shadow at the exact moment it tries to cross. Not the body, the shadow dash. Miss, and the echo inherits everything, memories, relationships, soul. You become the reflection." He blessed us, made the sign of the cross, and refused to come. My part ended when I gave your aunt the first nail. She lost it. 11:47 p.m. We stood in the living room. The mirror waited, patient. At 11:55 the glass cleared, showing my apartment. The echo sat cross-legged on the floor, whiskers in its lap, drawing a salt circle around itself with my hand. It looked up, smiled, and beckoned. Mike poured gasoline in a ring around the mirror. I clutched the nail. Midnight. The mirror rippled. The echo stood, stepped out of the glass, no portal, no shimmer, just there. It wore my face, my hoodie, my exhaustion. Whiskers followed, tail high, and rubbed against its leg like it was home. "Trade?" it asked, voice gentle. I raised the nail. "No." It sighed, disappointed. "Then we do it the hard way." It moved faster than thought. Mike swung the crowbar. The echo caught it midair, twisted, sent him sprawling. I lunged, nail aimed at the shadow stretching across the floor. The shadow dodged dash, coiling like smoke. The echo laughed, my laugh, but cruel. Mike tackled it from behind. They grappled, rolling. I scrambled, nail poised. The shadow pinned Mike's throat. I drove the spiral iron down. Contact. The shadow screamed, a sound like tearing metal. The echo froze, mouth open. Light poured from its eyes, its mouth, its pores. The nails sank deeper, pinning shadow to wood. The echo's body began to unravel, threads of me peeling away like burned film. Mike crawled free, gasping. Whiskers hissed and bolted upstairs. The echo reached for me, fingers dissolving. "You'll miss me." The last of it sucked into the nail, which glowed white-hot. The mirror cracked down the center, a perfect line from top to bottom. The gasoline ignited on its own, blue flame racing the circle. The house filled with heat and the smell of scorched memories. We ran. The front door opened this time. We stumbled into the yard as windows blew out behind us. The Victorian burned fast, hungrily, roof collapsing in a roar of sparks. Fire trucks came. We watched from the curb, wrapped in blankets, Whiskers safe in Mike's arms. Investigators called it electrical. I let them. 3 weeks later I stood in my new apartment, different city, different name. No mirrors. No photos. I'd smashed every reflective surface the day we moved in. Mike called. "You see the news?" I hadn't. He sent a link. A grainy security still from a gas station in Oregon. A man who looked exactly like me, filling up a pickup that looked exactly like Mike's. The timestamp, last night. I opened my wallet. The driver's license was whole again. The photo smiled first. Last night I dreamed I was the reflection, trapped in a black glass cage, watching a version of me live my life, better, happier, free. He waved goodbye through the glass and walked away. I screamed, but no sound came. I woke up smiling. I didn't mean to. The smile faded slowly, like it had somewhere else to be. I'm writing this on a laptop with the webcam taped over. If you're reading it, the echo one? Or maybe I did. I can't tell anymore. Either way, check your reflection. If it blinks first, run. And whatever you do, don't answer when it calls your name.